Hello, everyone. I know that you're all quite excited about the meetings that are going to come, and I wanted to present you with a few materials that you might find useful for your meetings. What we're going to talk about is facilitating meetings for groups. It talks about collective intelligence and cooperative processes that we know well in the Pestalozzi community. And doing all this brings us to a democratic culture, which is one of our goals in the community. So, how do we do that during meetings? First of all, before I start, I would like to say that many of the sources that I use here and the teachers that I have come from associations, Sociocracy for All in the US, and especially my teacher, Jennifer Rawl. Université du Nou in France, Les Colibris are very important actors to promote these methodologies. The methodology that I'm going to talk to you about is one that increases inclusion and equal access. And we know how important that is for us. You've been into Pestalozzi trainings, and we are all about that. It means that the way we're doing the meeting is in rounds, and everyone will be invited to talk, which reduces the pressure of wanting to say what you think, because you know you'll have your turn. And it also gives the opportunity for people who are not so talkative to participate at the same way others do. So, and the decision-making process that we use is one in which we talk about consent. So there's no voting with people who are for and against, but there's a more a process that brings more discussion and a deeper way of dealing with things. So when you consent, it means that you are not in abstention and you're actually talking about the issues at hand. The group needs this consent to make policy. It's very different than voting as we know it, because the majority will win and then the minority will lose. It's, as Miloš Jeremić says, it's the tyranny of the majority. We want to get out of that. Also, it's different. Consent is different than consensus. With consensus, you often have a solution that is the one that can accommodate many different issues or forces or pressures, but in the end, the solution is not good for anyone involved. So let's go see what this is. Let's get rid of majority and we get rid of consensus. Multi-perspectivity is another advantage of this method because it's not about being right. By going through the rounds and hearing what everyone is saying, we definitely get other perspectives. Also, the method increases connection because everyone has a role, knows what they are doing, and roles are interchangeable. They change over time. The way we decided in our community, you will be having your teams and your roles embodying the roles every 6 weeks. So the roles stay and the people change. And in the circle, in the team, the connection and the appreciation grows over time. So connection is an important part of it. Also, truth and trust, because each group, you know that in our groups we have mediators. Here in the slide you see there are delegates. The mediators are going to act as delegates going into the different groups. And this is going to increase truth and trust, because we have two mediators, so you'll have two perspectives on what happened in the other groups, and that increases truth. And also the fact that everyone is represented everywhere increases trust. So we're really deeply into the values of the Pestalozzi community here. Also, tolerance for ambiguity. Everything relies on intentionality in this method, and everything can be revisited at any time. So this governance, this way of leading is a system that is designed to improve itself over time. So the spiral here represents that it's never fixed. It's always evolving. There's also no hierarchy in this system. The rounds, everyone gets to talk. The consent, everyone gets to participate in the decision. So no hierarchy here. hierarchy, I think you say, sorry, and an evolution of the roles, individual commitment to a number of roles, and this creates constant creation of opportunities for colleagues. Let's get into what it means, all this. So, for example, you have been on the platform through the process of nominating people, and you now know that we have been through a 5-step process. We did this online on the platform, but it's also doable in the meetings. So what we did, we wanted to create a team. First, we defined the roles, the qualities for these roles. Then we nominated some people in these roles. We gave our arguments why we were doing that. Then we had a change round in which we could transfer our votes to other people if we had been convinced by other arguments. And at some points, anyone could make a proposal of a team, and then we look, does anyone have an objection on this proposal? If so, we have a round in which we do some improvements, and then once the decision is made and there are no more objections and the proposal is accepted by everyone through consent, then that's the decision and we can celebrate, which we did on the platform. So each group now has roles. You are in the meeting. You're going to have your meetings with the teams, so everyone will have the role there. Everyone knows their mandate, and everyone knows the mission for their roles. I'm not going to go into more detail here, but I would like to show you this summary. So it's the same thing we have just seen, but it shows how you're going round in a circle-shaped process with proposals, voting, objections, addressing objections, making decisions, and celebrating once it is done. There's one important thing about the objections. Objections, this whole method is also to get away from your ego and from ego battles. So an objection to a proposal, for it to be receivable, has to be concrete, factual, and argued, and it should not refer to personal issues such as I don't like this, or I don't like this person, or I prefer. These are not receivable objections. They have to be argumented. This is a quote from a member of Learn to Change, because we are now using this method in the association, and I posted it here because I think it's very, very telling. This member is telling us that she tends to remain quiet in groups discussions, and she really appreciated doing the meeting this way because it allowed her to be much more participating in the procedures. So that was very good news for us. And also she's talking about the power of words, which I found very interesting. To say I consent really makes you participate in the decision, and it's a responsibility making way of participating, which is very engaging and meaningful, as this member tells us. So thank you very much for listening to this presentation. I have just one more thing to show you, because I have developed for everyone here some materials. Also coming from Sociocracy for All, I do recommend that you go check out this association. This is a template that will be available for all the facilitators and secretaries of the team meetings. The secretary is the person who will be using these minutes the most, because that's the secretary's role, to write the notes from the meetings. What is here is that before starting the meeting, you have this template, and you can put it on a Google Doc, and you're actually going to be taking notes as the meeting is going on, which is really nice, because then everyone can follow what's going on, and you don't have work to do after to make your minutes. No one has to wait for the minutes to be done. Once the meeting is over, the minutes are there, and they're there for everyone to see, including the people who are not at the meeting but might be interested by what was done in this meeting. So if you look quickly at this form, you have the aims that are decided usually before the meeting. You have the link to the online space. You have the Google Drive link, you have the emails of the people who are attending, and here you have a backlog of topics, which means that if you have been too ambitious and there are too many aims to this meeting, or the agenda of the meeting is too complex, well, you will have things that you have not had time to do during the meeting. You can just put them right here, and for the next meetings, you can use them. Here's the index of the meeting. If I click on this link, I go directly to the meeting of this 23rd of November day. And every time you have a new meeting, you will just make a list of all the minutes that you have. This way, everything will be in the right place. You will have no problem finding things. Every meeting starts with housekeeping. Haha, does that remind you something? Just as in Pestalozzi trainings, it's exactly the same. Here it's attendance, who's there, in what role. Making a date for the next meeting right from the start is a good idea because at the end of meetings we don't have time to do that. Any announcements, agreeing on last meeting's minutes, consenting to the expected outcomes of the meeting or the aims that are here. And the last thing we do here is to consent to the agenda of the meeting. Then once this is done, the meeting actually starts. And you have the timing here. So this is very useful for you that you can do before. You know how much time you can spend on each part of your meeting. Here, everything is set up to do a proposal or clarification of the proposal, then the objections round. There's also roles and qualities and nominations if ever the activity of the day is to nominate people in roles. At the end of the meeting, you can write here, are the outcomes reached? You go back to your outcomes and see if you have done everything. If you have time, you do a read of the minutes and a closing round. It is good in the closing round and in the opening round to go back to feelings. How have you felt in this meeting? What are your impressions? Have you really participated? Was it a good dynamic? These feelings are very important to share with the group because they allow you to maybe do some either follow up or maybe change a few things in the way you are organizing your meetings for the next time. There, I hope this will be useful for you. You don't have to use everything that I just explained. You can use only part of it if that's better for you. But I do encourage you to use these very dynamic, inclusive, and effective methodologies for your meetings. Thank you very much.